You feel lonelier with them than when you are alone. Sit in that for a second. Why would a room full of familiar people leave you emptier than an empty room? That is not a coincidence, and it is not you being cold or arrogant or broken. It is information. Here is the thing almost nobody tells you. Outgrowing people does not mean you became better than them. It means your needs changed faster than the relationship could. Your values moved. What you crave from a conversation moved. And the old shape of the bond, the one that used to fit like a warm coat, does not fit the new version of your life. So here is the honest version of this whole idea, up front, because you deserve the payoff early instead of at the end. You have not necessarily outgrown their worth. You have outgrown the role you used to play around them. Say that again in your head, the role, not the person, the version of you that kept the group comfortable. Because that is what a friendship really is underneath. It is a little system. Everyone has a job. You were the funny one maybe, or the fixer, the quiet one, the agreeable one, the person who never says no. And that system stayed balanced as long as you kept playing your part. Then you grew, and growth threatens the system. So the group leans on you, usually without meaning any harm, to go back to the part you always played. Be funny again. Stop being so intense. Do not make it weird. They are not villains for this. They are just trying to keep the machine balanced, and your change knocked it off balance. So the discomfort you feel is not proof that you are wrong. It is the sound of an old machine straining against a new you. And you can test this with 4 blunt questions. What do I become around these people? Does that version still match who I actually am? What happens if I stop playing it? And do they know the real me, or only the version of me that kept everyone comfortable? Sit with your answers. They tend to tell the truth faster than your loyalty does. But how do you actually know? How do you tell the difference between outgrowing someone and just having a bad week? That is the real question, and the answer lives in your body and your habits, in 7 signs you have probably already felt but never named. Let me start with the loneliest one, because it is the strongest. You feel lonelier with them than by yourself. Your body knows a secret that your mind keeps arguing with. Being alone and being emotionally absent in a room full of people are 2 completely different states. One can restore you, the other quietly drains you. There is a real difference between solitude and loneliness. Solitude is chosen. It fills you back up. Loneliness is disconnection you did not ask for. And here is the cruel part. You can be surrounded, included, laughing at the right moments, and still be starving, because being seen is a need, and a crowd cannot feed a need it does not even notice. So if you can relax alone but feel invisible around them, listen to that. Your nervous system is not malfunctioning. It is telling you the relatedness in this room has gone thin. And relatedness is not a soft, optional thing. It is one of 3 needs every human runs on. Autonomy, the freedom to be your own person. Competence, the sense that you are growing and capable. And relatedness, the feeling of being truly connected. When those 3 are fed, you thrive. When one gets blocked, something in you goes quiet. Now here is the trap that keeps people stuck for years. A relationship can meet your need for belonging while quietly starving your need for autonomy. It gives you a place to sit. It just charges you your whole self as rent. And because it still gives you something real, you keep paying, and you keep wondering why you leave every hangout a little smaller than you arrived. Which brings me to the second sign. You have to shrink your good news. Watch what you do the next time something goes right for you. You get the promotion, you start the thing, you fall in love, and before you tell them, you run it through a filter, you soften it. You add a joke so it lands as humble. You brace for the sarcasm instead of the celebration. That editing is the sign. When a relationship has enough room for you, your good news is safe there. When it does not, your wins become a threat, because your growth holds up a mirror to everything they have not done. So they mock, or they dismiss, or they change the subject. And you learn, without ever deciding to, that it is easier to be small here. But a life spent understating your own excitement is a life spent apologizing for wanting more. And you should not have to hide the best parts of your day from the people who are supposed to be glad you exist. The third sign is quieter, and it sneaks up on you over years. Their conversations repeat, but your questions changed. You still love them. That is not the issue. The issue is that the topics stopped feeding you. They still bond over the same gossip, the same complaints, the same old stories from a version of life you have already left, and you have started to crave something else. Reflection, depth. Where am I going? Who am I becoming? How do I heal this thing I have been carrying? This does not make them bad. Repetition is not a crime. It just reveals a mismatch in where your attention wants to live. Your questions grew up. Theirs stayed home, and 2 people can care about each other deeply and still be reaching for completely different things across the same table. This is not a personal failure, by the way. It is one of the most normal things in the world. People naturally become more selective about relationships as they move through life. Your social circle is not supposed to stay frozen at the shape it had when you were 19. The loose, shallow ties tend to fade. The deep ones matter more. That narrowing is not you becoming cold or depressed. Losing interest in shallow connection is not a symptom. Sometimes it is just normal social pruning, the mind quietly deciding where its limited warmth should go. So when you feel your circle getting smaller, do not panic and call it decline. It might be your life sorting itself toward quality. The fourth sign is the one your body gives away before your mind admits it. You brace before you see them. Notice the hours before you meet. Do you rehearse what you are going to say? Do you plan how you will defend your choices before anyone has even attacked them? Do you feel tired before you arrive and then need a full day alone to recover after? That bracing is anticipatory. Your nervous system has learned, from real evidence, that this room costs you something. It expects judgment, or old conflict, or the pull to slip back into your assigned role. So it tenses up in advance, like flinching before a hit that has landed many times before. And this is where it stops being a mood and becomes a pattern. A friendship you have to gear up for, wear a mask into, and then peel that mask off afterward in exhausted silence, is a friendship where you are performing, not resting. Connection is supposed to lower your guard. If yours goes up instead, your body already knows something your loyalty is not ready to say. Now, before this tips into something it is not, I have to hand you the warning that keeps this honest, because here is where a lot of people go wrong. Some people call every discomfort outgrowing. That is not always what it is. Sometimes discomfort is just growth asking you to be honest, or to repair something, or to be accountable. Avoidance loves to dress up as peace. It cuts people off the moment they challenge it. It labels everyone difficult so it never has to look in the mirror. It confuses discomfort with danger, and it isolates until no one is close enough to actually know you. So run the real test, the one that separates growth from hiding. Can I tell the truth here? Can I be different without being punished? Can I have success without shrinking it? Can I set a boundary without being mocked? Do I leave this person more myself or less myself? If you leave more yourself, that is a relationship worth fighting for, even through friction. Growth includes staying, it includes repair. Outgrowing is only real when you have been honest, not just when you got uncomfortable. Hold on to that test because it makes the next sign trustworthy instead of convenient. The fifth sign is a boundary that made everything worse instead of clearer. A boundary is a small experiment. You say, I cannot make it this time. Or, I would rather not talk about that, and a healthy relationship can absorb that. It might feel a flash of disappointment, and then it adjusts because it wants the real you more than the convenient you. But a mismatched relationship does something else entirely. It punishes the boundary. It mocks it, or ignores it, or treats it as a betrayal, as if you're one small no undid years of history, and that reaction tells you everything. Because a boundary does not ruin a healthy relationship. It reveals how much of the relationship was quietly depending on you having none. It shows you what the bond was actually built on. If the whole thing wobbles the second you stop overgiving, then overgiving was the foundation, and you were the one holding it up alone. And this is where the number of people in your life stops mattering, and the quality of them starts. You can have a wide circle and be starving inside all of it. You can have 3 people and be more held than you have ever been. Outgrowing a group often looks, from the outside, like you ended up with fewer people, but underneath, it can mean you move toward the safer, more reciprocal, higher quality relationships you were always allowed to want. Fewer is not the same as lonelier. Sometimes fewer is just honest. The sixth sign feels less like pain and more like a strange, unfamiliar calm. You stop needing to be understood by them at any cost. Early growth is loud. You over-explain. You send the long message. You need them to get it, to agree, to approve of the new direction you are taking. You are still auditioning for permission to change. Later growth goes quiet. One day you notice you do not need to convince everyone anymore. They can misread you, and you can let them, and it does not tear at you the way it used to. That is not you going cold. That is autonomy. You have stopped running your whole life through the courtroom of their approval. And a person who no longer needs endless approval to feel steady is not colder. They are finally free. Which carries you to the seventh sign. And this is the hardest one because it is the one that asks you to hold 2 true things at the same time. You can love them and still choose distance. Outgrowing someone does not require contempt. You do not have to invent reasons to hate them so that leaving feels justified. You are allowed to be genuinely grateful for who they were to you, for the years, the rescue at 2 a.m., the version of your life they helped you survive, and still decide they no longer get access to the most alive parts of you. Love and access are not the same thing. You can keep the love and change the access. You can wish someone well from a distance you chose on purpose. Not everyone who mattered to your past gets to keep shaping your future. That is not cruelty. That is the difference between honoring what a bond was and pretending it is still what it was. But I am not going to leave you standing there like this is clean and painless, because it is not, and anyone who tells you it is has never actually done it. Here is the part the motivational posters skip. Social pruning sounds tidy. It feels like grief. When a friendship ends or fades, that is not childish drama you should be over by now. It is a real developmental event, a genuine loss. Friendships hold up your well-being across your entire life. So when one goes, even one you chose to release, you can grieve it, and the grief is not a sign you made a mistake. You are not just losing a person, you are losing a routine, a history, inside jokes only they understood, a whole version of yourself that only existed inside that particular room. That is a lot to bury, even when you are the one who knew it was time. So let me say the thing that will hold you on the nights this aches. If it hurts, that does not mean the distance is wrong. It means the bond was real. The pain is not evidence against your choice. It is evidence that you are not cold, that you loved it, that it counted. And missing the old room does not mean you still belong in it. You can press your face to the glass and remember exactly how warm it was, and still know, in the deepest part of you, that if you walked back in, you would have to shrink to fit through the door. You spent years learning how to belong in rooms that were built for a smaller version of you, rooms you fought so hard to get into, and growth almost never arrives as confidence. It does not announce itself. It shows up quiet as the slow, aching realization that the room you fought so hard to enter simply does not have enough air in it anymore. Not because they are bad, not because you are better, because you finally started breathing like someone who needs more room. You are allowed to want more room,